Predicate is a predefined one, as you can see up here, java.util.function. It's a function interface. There's one abstract method, and that is the test method. It returns a Boolean, and it takes in whatever the predicate is typed for. Again, I'm going to type it for integer. So basically, that is an integer coming in, much like that was an integer in the evaluate functional interface. So this is the code. That's the input coming in. So there's one argument, and it's going to be an integer, and this will return a Boolean, which is correct, because the compiler evaluates that, puts in the return, if you like, around there, and that's going to evaluate to a Boolean. So I'll use predicate.test now. And there's predicate.test with a negative and a positive, giving me true and false, just like up here. So you can see the similarities between the predicate predefined API functional interface and the evaluate one, that custom one that I wrote. Let's look at how you might use it in a method. So here I have a method called check. It is generically defined. In other words, that T stands for some type in the signature. You just put that before the return type. Now T can be plugged in here without any error, and T can be plugged in here without any error. What you're saying is that the capital T here is some type. That's what you do. You mark the method saying, don't start giving out about the capital T. If I take it out, I start getting problems with the capital T's. So I've got an int x up here, and I've just got an output, is x even, and I call the method. I pass down 4. T now becomes an integer. It's a type. It's not an int, it's an integer. This then becomes the predicate for T. So in other words, remember the predicate up here? It takes in one argument, the method is called test, and it returns a Boolean. So we're taking in one argument. This is the arrow for the lambda separating the code from the argument coming in, or arguments, and that's going to return a Boolean. And it does. N modulus 2, when you divide in by 2 till you get 0 as the remainder, in other words, that will be an even number. 4 modulus 2 will give you back 0, for example. So that will be the code for the test method. You're passing it down here into this predicate lambda. So what I'm going to return is a Boolean from this method, lambda.test, because that's a predicate interface. It's a functional interface. It has one abstract method, which is the test method, which takes in one argument, and that's this value here, which is 4, and it's going to return true or false based on the code that you've passed in here for your lambda. So it will be true in the first instance. I changed the value of x to 7, and I passed down the same lambda, taking in n, which means that n is scoped for the lambda. And as a result, I can change that to y and go with y there. Now the beauty of it here then is that I can go and say Mr. Joe Blogs is a string. That's a string name. And I can just use the check method now with a different type. Instead of it being integer, now it's going to be string. So it's going to be string going in, and the predicate will be typed for string. So there's the check method call. There's the string going down. And what am I actually, I need to come back with a Boolean now. Remember that. This is using the predicate, requires a Boolean. So that's coming in. I'm just going to call it S. Okay, that's going to be my argument coming in. So it's going to be a string. The compiler figures that out. And then this S dot, well, that's a string method. S dot starts with Mr. So that'll come back with true. And let's force one that's false. I use Miss Blogs. And again, I go with the S dot starts with Mr. And that'll be false. So this is a string. Well, you make it a string by doing that, passing down a string. Therefore, the compiler says, okay, predicate is typed for string as well. Therefore, that S, which is coming in, is a string. So that's what's going in here. That T. Miss Anne blogs. And then you can go, because S is a string, you can call the string method starts with. And that will return true or false simply by just putting that in there. S.starts with, the compiler will put in the extra code required. So if I run that, so the evaluator is true, false, true, false. Is 4 even true? Is 7 even false? Does Mr. Joe blogs begin with Mr.? That's true. Does Ms. Anne blogs begin with Mr.? That's false.